This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 206 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Thinline Global Products and Squarespace.com.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Fergus, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show with our producer, Glenn.
You two took about 12 takes just to get the opener right.
I know,
we couldn't still drunk from the weekend when you were together.
Weekend together.
We had too much fun on the weekend, so now we're just silly. We don't want to do the show.
We did. We're too silly. Philip and Meredith came and visited this weekend to visit Travis and I for the Derby, and we had so much fun. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's only about an 8-hour drive, and so we decided, hey, we're just going to go down and love the Derby, love all the events going on, and Kentucky is beautiful. So we talked to the First Lady last week, told us all the stuff we should be doing, and we went out and we did that. So
well, we got to hold off and don't give away everything that you did, because there was a picture that you sent me that we're going to give away a brand new book here for someone who gets this right. You sent me a picture of the four of you in front of a let's just say you sent me a picture of the four of you. I'm going to post it on Facebook, and the first one to tell us what location they were at will win a copy of Linda Tellington Jones's Dressage with Mind, Body, and Soul. And this is a really, really good book. And, you know, Linda Tellington Jones is one that was one of my wife's favorites, and had done T-Touch and all of that stuff. Yeah. Well, this is her latest book that was put together in cooperation with Rebecca Dieter. And it's a great book, and we're going to send it out to the person who guesses where the four of you were.
Something specific. I think Kentucky doesn't count.
Yes, very specific.
We already gave that away.
Specific,
so.
And for anybody that's been there, they'll know it right away. But we'll post it on Facebook, the picture on Facebook. So hop right on over there and make sure you're the first one to respond, and you'll get a copy of that book.
Perfect.
So you guys had fun. Did anybody win any money on the Derby? I didn't.
I
didn't, but Reese did. Well, you gave her some advice. Glenn, you gave her some advice.
You gave me the advice.
Our last show.
I know, but I never picked the favorite, and you took my advice and picked the favorite.
I don't think Orb won, and he's trained by Shug McGahee, who is a Lexington trainer and an old school Lexington trainer. So it was wonderful. He never won the Derby, so that was pretty fun. And Orb was the horse's name. And who was Philip? I picked the number 3 and number 4 horse. So I made like $35. I was excited.
I made $35. Well, I had a better day at the Oaks, that way. But it was good. Good race. Oh, a little wet for the Derby, but good
we
race.
Were inside. We weren't wet. We went to a party, so we were safe and sound and dry. But everyone who went to the Derby, it was a terrible day. But in Lexington, where we were, it was beautiful all day. So we went on our visits that you'll have to guess, and then so it was great. We had a great weekend, and it's so fun to get together. And I had been working really hard, and so I did not get Philip's help with the horses. We actually put the horses away and had a weekend.
We did non-horsey weekend. Well, I guess the race starts as is horsey, but that doesn't count really. It's non-dressage, I guess is what we can say.
Non-dressage. So that was a lot of fun, and we were just tourists, and that was great. So yay, next year, if anybody wants to come visit us too, you have to push Philip and Meredith out of the way, but it was a wonderful, wonderful time. So can't wait to do it again next year.
Well, it sounds like you guys had a lot of fun.
We did. Too much fun, probably.
But we're still able to put a show together today. What do we got? What do we got, Reese? It's exciting.
Well, we have a special show. My mom is coming on in honor of Mother's Day this weekend. Everybody, don't forget to get a Mother's Day gift. But my mom's going to come on, and
thank you for that, Reese, because I did.
I know. I know. Actually, I think I have to do the same thing. Yeah. But my mom's a wonderful lady, and she's been very, very influential in the horse industry, but also raised myself and my sister. So she's going to tell some stories about us. Thank you, guys. They totally anchor on. But also she's been a wonderful volunteer, and she'll talk a little bit about all the things that she's done over the years. So I hope you enjoy that.
Well, now I got to tell you that you would not be hosting this show today if it wasn't for your mom, because I met you both at the same time in Ohio at an expo or something, is where we first met, if I remember right, wasn't it?
Somebody asked me, Glenn, where we first met.
I think that's where we first met.
Right.
And then your mother was telling how wonderful you were and that you should be on one of the shows. And that's how we got
there you
your mom was pimping you out
that's
somehow.
how we met.
She
I was trying to think about that the other day, too, and I think that's where we first met, was in Ohio.
That's probably right. And Mom has been a wonderful supporter, and she's sort of, anything you need. Horse Show Mom doesn't quite even cover what my mom has done, in the industry and what we've gotten into. She'll talk a little bit about when she ran a fundraiser for the Philharmonic, and I rode. That was scary with a full orchestra. So we've done all kinds of things, and she's just a really neat lady. And I hope you guys enjoy kind of hearing some about us growing up, and also, how you can volunteer in this industry and really, really make a difference. So I hope you enjoy it. And we have Silva Martin.
Yeah, we also have Silva Martin.
Yeah.
Come on to talk about Cavalettis. I mean, she has some jumping horses in her barn. So we brought her on to answer a listener question about Cavaletti work. And it's a great interview, but it cut a little bit short. Unfortunately, there were some technical issues, but we still have a great trainer tip. So I hope everybody enjoys it.
And I think you guys have a note from a listener, too, that was asking a little bit that we're going to hit on a little later in the show.
Yes. Well, our Facebook has started to provide some traffic and some feedback for the show, which is great. The busier that is, the more stuff we have to talk about, and from our listeners, and then right back out to our listeners. So we're going to try and incorporate some of these questions into the shows, and see what everybody is doing with their dressage.
Right after this message from Thin Line Global, we're going to have my mom, Margie Koffler, join us on the show, and she's going to give some funny stories about me, but also how she raised two girls in the dressage industry in honor of Mother's Day.
Howdy, everybody. Glenn here. We just finished a terrific series on leg protection that was brought to you by the good folks over at Thin Line Global. If you missed it, go to horsetipdaily.com and check out all 4 parts. They still have a fantastic coupon for Horse Radio Network listeners for 12% off your next order at thinlineglobal.com. Whether you buy their saddle pads, horse boots, or tack items, everything is 12% off with this coupon code. Just type radio in the coupon section at checkout at thinlineglobal.com.
My mom is here to join us today. She was very looking forward to this interview after my dad did Father's Day. So, Mom, welcome to the show in honor of all the moms and Mother's Day out there.
Oh, my pleasure. It's nice to be here.
Well, and it's even, we'll have to tell everybody, this is our first interview we've ever done with anyone in Brazil.
It's very exciting. I can't believe I'm talking with you.
I know, it's fun. So, Mom, we did the whole interview with Dad in honors of Father's Day. And so we wanted to bring you on because you are actually the ultimate horse show mom.
Well, I think you're kind to say that.
Well, and everybody, my mom's name is Margie Koffler. And Mom has raised 2 girls in horses. She grew up in horses. And Mom, can you tell us a little bit about your background and sort of how we got started in horses?
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. I've done horses all my life. It's what our family does. My brother is, Reese's uncle is a hunter-jumper trainer. He continues to do that. Most often now he likes to handle the babies in the confirmation classes. So that's still his thing in the hunter world. And we lived in Virginia. And when I moved to Kentucky, I continued my horses after you all were a little bit older and I could be a little bit more assured that you'd be safe in the barn. And it became very clear right from the very beginning that I had 2 little girls who were very interested in horses, which was very exciting for me since, gosh, we're about 10 generations of horse people in our family, and that would make Reese 11. So it's kind of what we do. We have other professions, but what we really do is horses. So it was very exciting for me to raise little girls around horses, because horses are my passion, my life, and I think really are just such magnificent animals. And I wanted to share that, and I wanted to share that journey with them. And they really have been a foundation and a lifestyle for our family. And now Reese and Lindsay have an older brother, Ian, and he also took riding lessons, and he would have actually been an extremely wonderful rider, but he's decided that he wanted to set aside his boots, so to speak, and continue on playing tennis and soccer. So Reese and Lindsay started riding when they were tiny. I told her she couldn't come to the barn with me unless she would mind what I said. And I told her about the safety aspect and really taught her from the very beginning basic horsemanship, and continued through the years with that. And then Lindsay, being the second, Reese did not ride ponies. Reese started on a small horse. Lindsay started on a tiny pony. And she really started, I don't think Lindsay ever remembers a time she wasn't on a horse, because naturally she was the second. So it really started there. Reese started her lessons doing hunters, and it became very apparent that jumping was not going to be her thing.
Well, why is that? Tell us a little bit about what was going on there.
I knew you were going to do that.
Well, I mean, it's part of the story, right? Why is Reese not a jumper?
Well, I do have to say, the day when we decided to put her on the horse for the first time, because she had been going to the barn with me and watching, she really walked and trotted and did a rising trot right away. And the gentleman who started her riding is Robert Murphy in Kentucky, in Lexington, and he started the Kentucky Hunter Jumper Association. So he turned around to me and said, I think we're going to have a Medal McClay winner here. And I said, oh, Robert, I think we need to be very patient and see where she leads us. Yeah. Well, after a little while, he determined it was time for Reese to start jumping. So we set up a couple of little X's, and she, by that time, of course, was pretty proficient in her little 2-point in her jumping position, and looked fairly secure. So we started, and it was so clear that she had not an eye, a feel, no touch for a fence.
No talent. Zero negative talent. Negative talent.
Negative talent.
It's okay. It's okay, guys. If you're not good jumpers, it's fine. You can ride dressage, which is better.
That's exactly right. And so we really did, by that time I was doing a number of things, volunteer activities in the city of Lexington. And I needed to have my horse a little closer to where I was living, so I wasn't commuting quite as much to the barn. And when I moved my horse, we went to a barn that really accepted anybody, doing hunters and jumpers, eventing, and dressage. And so I was talking to the manager of the barn, and Reese was standing next to me, and then she was gone for a period of time, and then she came racing back, grabbed my shirt, and said, Mom, you have to come here right now. And of course, being the dutiful mother, I was saying, excuse me, please, I think you're interrupting. And no, Mom, you have to come right now. So I excused myself from the manager, a little embarrassed, not too much, and ran down to the arena, and she pointed her finger out and said, that's what I want to do. And of course, I was looking at this young lady on a dressage horse, and I said, really, Reese? Really? And she said, Mom, that's what I want to do. So that was really,
it, right?
That really kind of started everything. And so I said, okay, I'm going to have to break the news to my brother. So I called up my brother, and he said, she wants to do what? And I said, she wants to do dressage. And he was very cute. He thought for a minute, after a couple of expletives, not too many, and said, well, if that's the case, you need to do the best by her and find the best teachers and give her the best experiences you can. And I said, okay, that's fair enough. And so that kind of started Reese on the track. And then Lindsay, of course, she actually did have quite good talent for jumping. And one day she was out jumping in the field. And before her instructor was coming, because I decided I wasn't going to teach them. Well, really, I've always taught them, but I really felt like another instructor was more important than having mom teach. And so, because, it takes away that relationships where the kids can say, no, mom, I'm not going to do that, or yes, I am, or whatever, and get into, fussing about it. So I'd always said, well, I'll find somebody, I hope, who will teach her the best they can. And anyway, so we were waiting for Mr. Ron Beachy to come and for Lindsay's lesson. And so I was warming her up in the field at our farm and had set some little fences up. And she stopped her pony and she started to cry. She said, Mom, I really don't want to do this. I really just want to ride dressage. I really just want to ride
both
dressage.
of them, eh?
Yeah. So she was very cute, and she said, "Mom, I don't care if Reese is better than I am. I don't care. I'll just do my own thing, and I promise I'll work hard." I said, "Oh, Lindsay, it doesn't matter to me. Whatever you want, honey." So
Oh,
that
that's so
started
funny.
Lindsay.
But Lindsay, a lot of
both
times,
of them, both of them decided just to get into it, eh?
That's right.
So how did you educate? I mean, you hadn't had much experience in the dressage world. How did you get the education? Or were you learning alongside of them?
Well, what happened with that was when I was a youngster, we did some flat work with and did some basic dressage. I mean, very rudimentary. And
Yeah.
remember, I'm an old lady now.
No, you're not.
Hardly.
Cutest grandma ever.
Yeah, well, but it really was back in the time that in our country dressage was, just making its way. And we did some basic flat work. Chuck Ackerman was a coach, and Ronnie Beard and Joe Farges, and some really good people. And they recognized that, it was important, of course, to, do good flat work. And so I had a very minute introduction. So I wasn't, but also growing up, I I did about everything. We when we did the outside courses, say like in a hunter division, they were always outside, and they were always over natural obstacles that you would find on the hunt course, and you had to do that in a division. So honestly, eventing was never an issue for me. So I did some eventing. The issue for me was putting in the dressage component and learning, starting out with a training system. And I had a good coach, and she was patient and was quite talented riding. And of course, like I said, it's our life, so that's what I love to do. Um, and so I picked up the dressage really a little before Reese had started riding, enough to know, what I needed to do to get her to the right people.
Right. Right.
And at the time, I was also taking lessons as well. But then I had to stop riding because I had some pretty serious injuries. So, but also I found one time I was at a horse show. It was one of Reese's first horse shows, and Lindsay wasn't showing at the time. And I remember being in the arena doing my dressage test, watching Reese doing her dressage test on the arena next to mine. And I thought, this is really silly. I've had my time. I had a great time riding. I did big things. I accomplished my goals. I did everything I wanted to do. Now it's time to share that with the girls. So that, and along with injuries, it was time for me to kind of hang it up, so to speak. So that's kind of what happened. I decided I would more spend time just making things happen for the girls that they wanted. Not that I wanted, because I already had fun doing my thing, but really it was just a pleasure to start being more the show mom and horseman at the same time, and passing along the knowledge and being there for them. And each year we would always say, okay, so what's the year's goal here? What do you want to do? Or do we want to continue doing this? Are we having fun? Where are we going with this? And really, they would kind of lead the way. So it was my pleasure to kind of be the safety net and the support system and watch them grow and succeed.
And I know Reese still does that. Even with her working students and her students, she still does that at the beginning of every year, sits down and does the goals for the year. So I know that she got that from you. But enough about riding. Let's talk about Reese. Was she a bratty little horrible child? That's what we really want to know.
I knew this was coming in.
That's what Philip and I really want to know.
That's what they want to know. I'm blushing in my office right now.
Okay, you want the dirt.
Yes.
Yeah, we need the dirt.
That's right.
Oh, thanks, guys.
I can tell you one story that maybe Reese wouldn't be too embarrassed
All right,
about.
let me put her on mute here.
Okay, so this is really a classic mom story. And
this is going to be good.
We went over to Louisville for a show, and it was extremely hot. Reese must have only been, oh my gosh, she must have been only 10 or 11. And so we packed everything up and tootled on over to Louisville, and she started her classes. She did her first, she did her first class, and we're talking here training level now. And so she did her first class, and she wasn't really pleased. She's very much a perfectionist, and surprise. But anyway, she wasn't really pleased with herself. And at the time, we had to find another coach because her first coach left Kentucky to go to New York.
Jeez, Reese at the age of 10 was scaring coaches away. They even
all
moved
the way
out of
to
the
New
state.
York. Yeah, all the way to the East Coast. Couldn't get any further, could they?
Yeah, no.
I know, she ran.
He couldn't afford to
anyway.
go to Brazil. He had to stay in the United States anyway. But, yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, so I was coach for a day. As I said before, not exactly my fun thing to do,
Not always a great idea for the mom to have to be that.
Exactly. It's just a setup for uh-oh. But anyway, so we talked about it a little bit, her ride, and maybe how we could change things a little and how things might be a little better. And so then the next class came up, and she did her next test. And when she came out of the arena, I asked her how she felt her test was. Did she have a good time? And she was a little bit on the contrary side, let's just say. So
bratty. I was bratty.
Yes, she was a little naughty and a little contrary. And with that, and I'm a fairly tall lady, I reached up and grabbed her and pulled her right down by my side and put my little finger right in front of her nose and said, "Excuse me, please. I am your mother. I am owed respect. I deserve respect. And you, young lady, will take your horse up, make sure he is well taken care of. I will go and collect up our things, say thank you to the show management, and you will go up to the trailer, get him all ready, and we are going home." And she looked, and I said, "Because you will never speak to me again like that." And she looked at me, and my hand just flew out and pointed to the trailer, and she kind of walked dejected up to the trailer and took Teddy was her horse's name at the time, and made sure Teddy was comfortable and bandaged him up, and we packed up our things. And on the way home, I decided I would be kindly, but I wouldn't be so nice. So in one respect, I knew she really wanted me to say something, and I was silent all the way home. And, I only had to do that once and never again.
That's good.
Although I will say this, Travis, her husband, would like to do that today. But,
Oh, my God. I tell you, I went to look at a horse at that farm. I hadn't been back to that farm since I was like 10, and I had like deja vu on how awful
Had a little bit of
was,
fear, yeah.
on how I was
PTSD
mouthed
came
off
up.
to my mother. Oh, bad news! I never mouthed off again. That was awful.
I met her once years ago. When I first met you was at a show. I think you were doing a show or something. And I met her years ago, and in the first 2 minutes, I knew I couldn't mouth off to her. I mean, it's still that way.
Mama Kay.
So, I mean, what is your tip to prevent your girls from becoming dressage divas? I mean, you see a little bit of that going on at some of the shows, and
pull them off the horse and stomp them into the ground.
Yeah,
apparently
is
the
that
rule
just
there.
it? Make sure you can always pull them off the horse.
There you go. Well, I have to be honest with you. I had to do the same thing for Lindsay once only. She was so naughty. She was down by my side again. I put my knee out and folded her over my knee and gave her a quick whack on the hiney.
All
Right in
right,
front of-
discipline,
Arrested for that
very
nowadays.
important.
Yeah, exactly. You may be thrown in the clinker, Mom.
I might be thrown in the clinker, except for that it was really not a very hard pat, enough to get her attention.
We both lived. We're fine.
Yes, they
So
both were.
I am going to change gears because I'm highly embarrassed now. But let me tell you, I do not mouth off to my mother, and I was very thankful now that I work with a lot of teenagers that my mom did that, because I knew very clearly that horses were a luxury and part of our life, but not certainly something that could be taken away very quickly.
Yep.
And also, Mom was very strict with grades, and for us to have horses in school, we had certain grades, and so we definitely had some restrictions with the horses. But Mom, I just want to change gears too, because and I think it was 2008, you were actually USDF Volunteer of the Year, and have done a tremendous amount of volunteer work for the horse industry. And I think you're a wonderful example to all the moms out there of how you can use your talents to help kind of bring the industry along. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you did to kind of receive the Volunteer of the Year?
It's hard for me to do that.
Well, but you ran the USDF regional finals. You ran the USDF and the Kentucky Horse Park National Dressage Symposium. You were director of development for USDF and helped actually bring the USDF building to the Kentucky Horse Park. So I get to brag on you a little bit. You really did a tremendous amount and continue still to work very, very hard and in the horse industry. I guess, how would you just help parents kind of, or give some advice to how parents can help the horse industry?
Well, I think that is a really good question, because horses are a wonderful way to raise children, and I think parents recognize that. But while you're spending so much time with your child in that particular sport, when asked to do various things to kind of help, you can still support your child and also show your child that it's important to give back in an industry that gives so much to you. In other words, I think, and it's not just for horses, I think it's really a philosophy of mine, and that is, if you're ever in a position to give back, you need to do it, because real joy in life comes from serving others. And whether that's in the horse industry or fundraising for charitable events, I believe very strongly personally that to whom much has been given, much is expected. And if you all had been swimmers per se, I probably would have, also, supported your sport in any way that I could. When you all were growing up, there was not a lot going on for juniors and young riders. So in order to make things happen for you, and all the young people that have grown up with you, Philip, and you, Reese, during the years, you had to make it happen, or nobody was going to do anything. Do you know what I mean? It took
I
the
agree. And you
interest.
don't have to be really horsey to volunteer a bit
No,
of your time. You don't have to be really rich and you don't have to be really horsey. It's just,
no.
at the shows, it requires people's time to just,
Yes,
sit at the
you
show
know,
office or,
you,
and I truly believe
exactly.
that. Yeah.
That's a really good point, and that is that no, you don't have to be a long time horse professional or anything like that, but just an interested party, an interesting parent, an interested parent to say, gosh, I've got some extra time. I mean, how powerful is it to say to your child when they're waiting up by the barn, to say, it's really important to help the management of the show because in order to put these things on, they need a lot of volunteers. So, I'm going to run down and check with the show office and see what I can do to help. Now, obviously, you can't help with the judges, but you can be a steward and you can, you can, score. You can be a runner. You can drive the golf cart. So really, that's kind of how it started for me. Um, I've done a lot of fundraising and given a lot of parties, and I enjoy doing that. And I really kind of started out years ago doing all the hospitality for our local horse shows. They were held at the horse park. Our facilities were not great. We had to do our scoring and everything in tents. And you all who have been to Kentucky know that it rains and sleets and the wind is terrible. We come back each morning to find our papers all over and mud up to our ankles. I mean, literally. And so, we all looked at one another and I said, we need to build a show office here. We need to spearhead a little bit of a renovation here at the Kentucky Horse Park and put up judges' boxes, permanent judges' boxes, and a show office. So by gosh, we went about that. I was the president of the Kentucky Dressage Association at the time, and we raised $40,000, and hand in hand with Lee Sholak, the first director at the Kentucky Horse Park, then John Nicholson, we renovated the horse park. We made some changes in how people could safely get from the barns down to the arena. And, and we did those things. And that really started by just saying, how can I help? And from there, we decided that the Kentucky Horse Park was a natural place to hold wonderful shows. We had 2 good national shows, and we said, well, gosh, we should be holding the regional championships here. So in 2003, we held the regional championships. We held the first young horse finals. We held the first second dressage medal seat finals on the same show. Plus, we had the first lady of Kentucky, the governor's wife, agree to be the co-chairperson for a fundraising dinner where we had in the Rolex Arena, the big stadium, we brought the Philharmonic in, the Lexington Philharmonic, the entire orchestra, and held a dinner at the same time. This is during the show for one of the parties. And we told the story of dressage from ancient Chinese times to modern competitive freestyle. And we had 550 people. And actually, Reese did the last ride. Poor Reese, she really was put in the hot seat because I couldn't get older, more established riders to do the freestyle for me. And so I said to Reese, I'm sorry, you can do a good Prix St. George and your freestyle is good. You're going to do that at the end.
You're just going to do that.
You're doing that. Yeah, that was fun.
That
was a great time. Actually, it was a wonderful experience.
Yes.
Mom, how much money did you raise on that event?
That year we raised $30,000. $15,000 went to Kentucky literacy programs, and the other half went to Kentucky Horse Park. And what was exciting about that evening, it was in the evening around 7 o'clock in the Rolex Arena and looking out over the big pond there, we call it. And it was a fabulous program. There were 550 people there from Lexington. And these were not all horse people. They were people who came out for the fundraiser and for the First Lady and various reasons. But when the program was, when Reese came down center line and halted her freestyle, I'll let Reese tell you the story, but after she halted, 550 people jumped up, clapping and screaming and crying. And I looked around and I was
Reese
so
made people cry.
thrilled and amazed that Dressage had such a wonderful evening. It was just so exciting. So, and like I said, that just started out and just kind of grew. And so it was a very exciting time.
Thank you so much for your time today and talking to us about kind of all the things that you were able to do as we grew up and the things you did for volunteering. It was wonderful. And you're just a wonderful example on motherhood, but also, how you can raise children in dressage and also be a huge and productive member of the dressage community. So Mom, thanks so much for your time. And if anybody wants to get a hold of my mom and learn about how she raised two girls, I'm sure I can make that happen. So Mom, I hope you have a great rest of the day and thanks for your time.
It's great talking with all of you. Bye, Glenn. Bye, Philip. And Reese, it's been a pleasure, honey, I have to tell you.
Right after this commercial break from squarespace.com, Silva Martin's going to answer a listener question about using Cavalettis to train dressage horses.
Glenn the Geek here. I get asked all the time by horse people, I want to build my own website. What service should I use? Well, there's only one service I recommend without hesitation, and that is squarespace.com. If you're looking to build a website for your horse farm, training business, boarding stable, or personal rider page, or maybe even a blog, and you want to do it yourself and end up with a professional-looking website, then there's only one place to go, Squarespace. Squarespace makes it easy with one of the simplest do-it-yourself interfaces available. You choose the theme you like, and then you just drag and drop the elements you want into that theme and start adding your pictures and content, and off you go. Plus, they give you 15 days to try it with no strings. They don't even ask for your credit card. If you sell things, they even have an e-commerce solution. Plus, your new website will integrate with Facebook and Twitter like a dream. I've been using this company for years and have recommended it to dozens of horse people. No matter what your skill level, Squarespace is for you. Give it a try for 15 days free by going to horseradionetwork.com and clicking on the Squarespace banner on the right side of the page. horseradionetwork.com, click on the Squarespace banner on the right side of the page.
Well, it is our pleasure to have Silva Martin back on the Dressage Radio Show this evening for a trainer tip of the week. Silva, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on, Silva. We got this question through our Facebook, and we're always encouraging people to, write in with the questions, and so here we are. This question is from Kimberly. She said, I love the Dressage Radio Show. It's great. Last week, you briefly mentioned Cavaletti work while talking about hill work. I would love to hear more about Cavalettis, so we thought it would be perfect to have Silva Martin on to talk about Cavaletti work. So,
all right.
Yeah, when you're ready, Silva.
All right. Well, I think Cavalettis can be very helpful. I think it's for me. I'm married to an event rider, so we have a lot of poles and Cavalettis laying around at our place. So, it comes in handy for me. I think for me mainly, I think it's a really good thing for a dressage horse, especially younger ones, to kind of just find their balance and kind of have have a little bit more of an awareness where their legs are, and have to kind of get distracted from just the everyday drill, doing something different. So I think it's a little bit of fun for younger horses and also for older horses to just get out and do something that they don't do all the time, and at the same time, I think it's a really good thing to build strength and activate the hind leg and get some suppleness through the back and the neck, riding over poles and Cavalettis. I do it a lot.
So Silva, start from the beginning on how you decide, what height the Cavaletti is, what's the spacing on a Cavaletti. How do you decide that?
Well, it shouldn't be any higher than 6 inches to a foot. So it's not very high at all. And then the distance for the trot is 3.9 feet. So,
That's very exact.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, so I think, for the younger horse, I would always, start with one so they can kind of get an idea on how to, just get over it and not be spooky and not get scared about, trotting over more than one. And then, eventually put 2 and 3 and 4 and however many you want to put. But, so I think it's really important to kind of give the horse the awareness of where their legs are and make them confident about going over them. And then once they kind of understand the theory of, trotting over them, then you can really use them to strengthen them and to relax their back and their neck and increase the activity of the hind leg and all those things.
Oh, I loved the 3.9 feet because as a dressage rider, I always get in trouble with this. So is there an exact measurement for walk and canter?
I don't know. I only ever do the trot, so I'm not really sure.
Okay. We'll look it up. But I was so impressed by the 3.9. That's very helpful for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Silva, are there some problems that can occur, like when you ride the horses, introducing Cavalettis, and what are the problems and how to look for them and how to fix them?
I think the biggest problem is if you have a horse that worries about it. I think you have to be really patient and not overface them like anything really. I think if you have a horse that's a little bit spooky and it's a little bit scared of going over things, I think you need to you need to take your time and not make it worry about it. But because it's such a low height, it's the chances of getting injured or injuring the horse are very low. So that's why Cavalettis is a good, it's a good thing than hurting the horse or the rider.
Okay, all I gotta say is, Silva, I think a foot's kind of high, so I just wanted to add that in. I think that's a little high. So
that is true.
For yourself, right. when you talk for that's not very high. I just wanted to add that in.
Well, that's just as high as the little white fences around the outside, isn't it? So.
Well, we try not to jump those.
We try not to jump those.
Yeah, exactly. Try not to.
Sorry. I just wanted to add that in for those of us that got a little heart palpitation with the foot. Foot. Sorry. Carry on. No, I'm teasing. For all steps aside, it is. But do you have is it better to use a wood pole, or I have seen some people using plastic poles? Do you have a suggestion on what type of equipment you should have for doing the Cavalettis?
I'm not. I don't. To me, it doesn't really make a difference. I think the plastic ones are definitely easier to move around. So I think that's good. I don't think it really for Cavaletti. I don't think it really makes a difference. Not to me anyway.
And for a rider tip on how to do the best job to ride, Cavalettis, what are some tips for a rider who's introducing it to themselves a little bit? How to do a good job, maybe talk about straightness and some of the balance issues that occur.
Yeah, I think, for the rider and for the horse, I think it's really important not to rush to them. I think you want to go in a really low speed towards them, especially because you want to encourage the horse to lift their neck, their back and drop the neck to look at the Cavaletti. So I think it's important to be really straight and, not to try to lean forward, like try to stay in your normal position, and, stay in posting trot and not, run at them. I think it's really important to give the horse some time to use themselves over the Cavalettis, and relax.
I think that's good. Do you put them, Silva? Do you put them on a circle? Do you put them on the long side, the short side? Where do you put the Cavalettis when you start them?
Well, for the start, definitely on a straight line, just to kind of teach them and not make it harder than it has to be. And then you can put them on a circle line, or you can put them through the corners, or you can it really depends on how much the horse has done it and how confident they are. But I would always start on the straight line.
Well, that was a good trainer tip. I'm sorry that it got cut a little bit short. Maybe if there's more questions about Cavalettis, we'll have Silva back on. The next thing we wanted to get to was our listener feedback. Rita sent us a feedback email about the trainer tip from Natalie Hamilton-Hinneman about shoulder 4. And she has decided that it's a great thing for using on trail riding. So she sent us an email about that, and she says that it helps her horse from getting tense and using it as work on trail riding, and really helps her to face some of the challenges of the tension on her ride. So I thought that was really great.
I did too. I think that's a wonderful, kind of even elaborating even more on what Natalie said, because shoulder 4 is a great exercise if you have a horse that's spooky, because as she said, you can use it to really get your horse to pay attention to you while making the exercise more difficult by increasing the angle of the shoulder 4. And that's what she was doing. And I think that it also focuses the horse. It gets them on the outside rein, gets them listening to your legs. So a lot of great stuff there, and really good way to think about it. So
well, I'll just take an excerpt from her message here. It says, when he gets tense, her horse, and I ask for shoulder 4 or shoulder in, it makes both of us think instead of react, and it's very hard to maintain the tension between them when they are thinking about a movement. And shoulder in is a very familiar place. A person jogging behind a baby stroller might be very odd, but the shoulder in is very familiar and very comforting to your horse. So I think that's a great point about using it in other places rather than just the dressage ring.
And this also goes to show you how much that groundwork that you achieve in dressage. I mean, we joke about dressage and all that, but it just goes to show you that groundwork can be used in so many other places, and our listeners are figuring that out. She might not even be a dressage rider.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a dressage rider to do some of this. You don't have to go in and do a second level test to be able to use shoulder in whatever you're trying to do, and to help your horse listen better and help the rider ride better. I think that's the point of it when it comes down to it, right?
Well, the listener feedback is great, and we love these type of feedback questions. So keep them coming. We love it. So thanks for the email shout outs, and to everybody, check out the Facebook page because we really want to see if people can guess where Philip and Meredith and Travis and I were this weekend on our holiday in Kentucky. And you can find our show notes and links to today's guests at our website at dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me at philipparksequestrian.com, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a great show today. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.